How's it going, everyone? Kim_Black_Tooth here again. Kim_Black_Tooth here again. So I'm going to make a short video today. So this one is all about extra things. There's been some news from developers, confirmations and clarifications on some of the tokens and some of the other cards. I want to share that with you. I'm going to also take this opportunity to redo some of my Northern Realms analysis on a couple of cards because either I missed an important factor or somebody's pointed out something reasonably good which changes how good that card can be and stuff like that. So let's go, shall we? So let's start this video with Commando Neophytes. If you're playing a Skellige deck, you've got a range of cards which can create, get buffed by or destroy, etc. Commando Neophytes. A lot of synergy with them. But we didn't quite know what they were. Well, it's been confirmed that they are 2 strength units. So create and play 2 Commando Neophytes. If the Vrihedd Vanguard is 4 strength, then this is effectively going to be 8 strength worth of card, which seems to be about right in terms of how much a bronze card is worth. The artwork is old, so it may not be fully 4 strength. We've got cards like this, where it's 3 strength silver, destroy all Commando Neophytes on your side of the battlefield, remove 1 strength from all non-gold units on the opponent's side of the battlefield for each. Okay, so you are generally losing damage here. You're sacrificing 2 strength from your Commando Neophytes and only dealing 1 to the opponent for each. However, you might actually get a lot more from it because each Commando Neophyte that you destroy, you are dealing 1 damage to all of their units. So if they've got more than 2 units on their side of the board that's non-gold, you've actually started getting dividends from this. Okay, because it deals 1 damage to each. So if they've got 3, then you're quids in, so to speak. You're 1 strength up. And the more cards they have, the more effective it's going to be. So now we know it's 2 strength, we can tell that this card is actually really, really good, and the whole Commando Neophyte works really well against non-gold units. Okay, if you're fighting against a Northern Realms promotion style heavy deck, probably not going to be as effective if you let them get loads of promotion, because you do want to let them get loads of cards before you destroy them all. You know, that's going to be an issue. So Commando Neophytes, 2 strength units now. The next, let's go on to the Unicorn and the Chironex for Yennefer here. 9 strength golden neutral card, goes on the siege row. Choose to create and play either a Unicorn or a Chironex unit. Now, we don't know the strength of those 2 cards, but she's 9, so we can kind of estimate that with their abilities, which we do know now, that they're probably going to be 1 strength. I would say 0, but there are no 0 cards anymore, it seems. But they're probably 1 strength. But their abilities is what we now know and what are very, very powerful. So the Unicorn, when placed on a row, will give +2 strength to everything on that row, including gold units. And the Chironex will -2 from everything on that row, including gold units. But there is a little exception. When you place it, say, on the melee row, it will give +2 or -2 to both players' melee row. Okay? So it's like Field Marshal Duda, where you can choose to -2 or +2. But it affects gold units, but it affects both players' melee row, both players' ranged, or both players' siege. So obviously this can be really powerful. You can buff up your Northern Realms promotion deck, you know, but you've got to be careful because you obviously want to play this in a way that it buffs your melee row and hopefully the opponent hasn't got anything on their melee row so they don't get any benefit. So that's the risk reward of this card. If they've got a lot of units on a lot of different rows, you're going to buff the enemy or nerf the enemy and maybe hurt yourself. So you've got to be careful. Obviously, it could be pretty good with an Elven Skellige deck because they've got a lot of agile units, so they can choose what row they go on. So if you see the opponent really going onto the siege row, put loads of yours onto the ranged row, and then you can play this card without fear of buffing your opponent or nerfing yourself. So a very interesting card. I like it. The extra risk reward is very nice and does make it different to Field Marshal Duda, in my opinion. So the next card is the Archgriffin, an 8 strength bronze unit with agile for monsters. Remove weather effects from the row on your side of the battlefield. It has been confirmed that it is only on your side of the battlefield, and you place this card down and it gets rid of a rain or a fog or a frost only on your side. So it really benefits the monster style non-weather users for Arrakis and Neckers and stuff like that, swarm deck. But also, it's been confirmed that the 8 strength that it has is an error. It's going to stay as bronze, but its strength is going to get reduced. We don't know what strength it's going down to, but a lot of people are expecting it to be 4 to 6 strength, somewhere between that range. but it has been confirmed that 8 strength was a mistake, and it will be changed before closed beta. As you can see, 50% of users build this deck at the moment. Put in 50% of monster decks, which is a lot. That's fine. The next ability is also a monsters one. The Drowner, 7 strength bronze monster card, goes on the siege row, has no ability. Though it has been confirmed that this card is just a placeholder. They had an ability, a mechanic for it, and it will get it again. But at the minute they couldn't get it working, it wasn't working right, so they had to remove it for the closed beta. Okay, so they will be bringing in its mechanic again, whatever that might be, but for the minute, it's just a placeholder that it doesn't have an ability. Okay, so this is one of my Northern Realms analysis redos, the Redanian Elite, 4 strength bronze card for Northern Realms, and goes on the siege row. Whenever 3 or more copies of this unit are present on a row, add 2 strength to them and convert them to gold. So initially I said, okay, they'll get to 6 strength, which isn't too good, because it's harder to get these guys out than it is the Dunbanner Heavy Cavalry, and they're 6 strength as well. However, it was pointed out to me that I added in the 2 strength, but I forgot to counter and add in the 2 strength they get for converting to gold, so they will become 8 strength, which actually makes them reasonable now. 3 8 strength is quite high, because you need 3 to convert them to gold, so that'll be like 8, 16, 24 strength, which is really, really nice. However, they still have the issue of being difficult to get 3 out on the board, and the main way that you really want to do this is if you're running the reinforcement special ability. So choose a bronze unit on your side of the battlefield and play all copies of it from your deck. So obviously you place one of these down, reinforcement it, and suddenly you've got 24 strength of golden cards on the board. So, you know, I can see the potential now. Initially I didn't, but now I can, because 8 strength is about, you know, really, really nice, and they're golden. They are still hard to get out, but they will buff other things which, you know, get buffed when golden things come out onto the board. And yeah, there is some warrant to these cards now, which I didn't initially foresee. So my second Northern Realms redo is Sabrina Glevissig, 3 strength silver card for Northern Realms that goes on the range row. When destroyed, remove 4 strength from all non-gold units on the opponent's side of the board. So initially I thought this card was loyal, which means it gets played on your side, but it's not. It's disloyal. And that oversight was quite a big one, because being disloyal makes the card way better. Okay, which is odd, really, usually. Normally it doesn't. But being loyal, it would have been really, really hard to destroy this card without using sort of like an Alzos Thunder just specifically for this card, which is kind of a waste, you know? You'd have to bait your opponent into removing it via lacerates or something like that, you see, which was quite difficult. But being disloyal, you've got loads of ways as Northern Realms to destroy this card. So disloyal makes it easier to get its effect. You know, you could lacerate it, you could weather it, lacerate it, that type of thing. You've got all your trebuchets and your siege engines and stuff which do damage to the opponent's side of the board, so maybe that'll hit it, you know. So there's a lot of ways, because it's disloyal, that you can get its effect triggered, and it's all in your ballpark rather than your opponent's then. So it's just easier to get its effect, which makes it a lot better of a card. The 3 strength you're giving them is hopefully going to be removed if you manage to destroy it. Obviously, as an opponent, you would want to possibly promote it before they manage to get the effect off. Maybe buff it so that it's really hard to remove it. Obviously, if the opponent has Radovid, the leader card that does 10 strength, if you buff it to say 8 or 9, you might consider using that. So that might be a good trade, you know. But yeah, so there are ways to defend against it, but it's a lot easier to use now, so it makes it a way better card for Northern Realms. So speaking of Sabrina, and my inability to see that she was a disloyal card, because I forgot to read the loyalty text, the developers have stated that there is going to be some way to identify whether a card is loyal or disloyal other than just the text. They are going to try and experiment and introduce a way to see whether cards are loyal or disloyal without having to read the text, which is really good because it will stop short mistakes like that in the future for new players and when they introduce new cards as well. So the next change, which a developer has stated that they wanted, but not necessarily is going to be in the closed beta, is involving potions and things like the 3 witches, Eskel, Lambert and Vesemir. So they're a must-do ability, right? So you get all 3, and potion cards played on this unit are 1.5 times more effective. So the main culprit is the Thunderbolt Potion, which for some reason its artwork has disappeared. I'll put it on the screen. Choose a non-gold unit on the battlefield and add 4 strength to all copies of it on the same side. So that won't work with Eskel, Lambert and Vesemir at the moment because they're not named the same thing, they're not the same copy of a card. Okay, so it won't work on them, but the developer said they do want it to work, but they've got to work out how to work that in so it does work. They want it to work on the witches and also the crones, because you've got the crone Brewess, Weavess and Wispess. It won't work on these, but they want it to be able to work on these. So Thunderbolt Potion will hopefully get a little bit of a buff for the witches, which would be an amazing card to use it on, because then it'll add 6 strength to all of them, which is you know, reasonable. That makes them all 9 then, which is actually really nice for 2 cards. Okay, so that's another change they want, but probably won't be in the closed beta. So the Young Berserker, which is a 3 strength bronze card for Skellige, goes on the melee row. Transform into a young bear if this unit's strength is reduced below its original value but not destroyed. Now it was confirmed that anything which reduces strength below its original value counts as wounding, so weather effects count as wounding. So when it was posed that if this guy goes into weather, it will get wounded and transform into a young bear, but the young bear will get reduced down to weather, which means it's probably crap. The response from a developer was that unless these cards are immune to weather effects, winky face, okay, winky face, dick face, then they actually become quite good. So it's highly likely that these cards, as young bears, could be immune to weather effects, which would just be absolutely great, to be honest. So just be aware that maybe you should build decks to test that theory as soon as closed beta is released, because you could build like a Skellige weather deck, really utilising Harold the Cripple. He's a good one for that, the leader card, because he'll take 4 strength off all non-gold units on the opponent's side of the board that are already wounded, and weather helps that perfectly, destroys loads of stuff. So you'd be able to play these into your own weather effects, and then they'll change to young bears and become immune. So it would really work well with a weather deck for Skellige if these guys, as young bears, are immune to weather. So just look out for that when the closed beta comes out. We don't know if it's true, but we saw the winky face, the smiley face with a wink, you know what I mean. Okay, so it's highly likely they could be immune to weather. So we've got Skjall, which is a 4 strength silver card for Skellige only on the melee row. Remove 3 strength from this unit and the strongest non-gold units on the opponent's side of the battlefield. When destroyed, create and play Craven Revived. So he's instantly going to go down to 1 strength, so he's in a way immune to weather effects in some way. And you get to remove 3 from the opponent. If you've got one of those savage bears on the row, he's going to destroy himself instantly, which is really cool, because then you get Craven Revived. So we don't know what Craven Revived does, or we didn't used to, but we do now. We don't know what strength he is. I imagine he's like 2 or something. But what he does is he stays on that row, and then any cards you play after him, which are non-gold, get +2 strength. Okay, it's not retroactive. The cards which already are on the board don't get +2 strength, but the cards you play into him do get +2. So it's kind of like the older Encourages, where he's actually active on the row, you know, after Craven Revive's been played, okay, but not retroactive. So it's a bit of a mix, which is a really interesting card. He seems like he's quite worth it, to be honest. Although his strength is going to get removed, so his strength is pretty much nullified instantly. You're dealing 3 to the opponent, and then you've got this really nice +2 to everything you play into him, but the opponent is definitely wanting to kill him, and it might be quite easy, because I think Craven Revived is going to be a very low strength unit. So very decent, very interesting, I like it. So our next card is Eredin, which is the leader card. Create and play Eredin, the unit, amazing. So it's been confirmed that he is going to be 10 strength for the closed beta, unless they change it from now until the closed beta. So 10 strength means that, you know, he's a little less than Geralt, may not be too powerful. We haven't heard whether monsters can still carry over golden units. We've seen golden units get an overall decrease in strength. Geralt is now 12 and he's only 10, so maybe it's a little bit more reasonable if gold units get carried over, but he's only 10 now. And that'll lead me on to Radovid, which is another Northern Realms redo analysis that I want to do. So initially people were thinking his 10 strength removal is not that good. Choose any unit on the battlefield and remove 10 strength from it. This is the Northern Realms leader. So people were thinking it's not that good, but he will destroy things like Eredin now, because he's 10 strength. But that's why people are thinking Eredin might not be that good, because generally people favour removal, like Radovid, over just pure strength. So maybe people are thinking that should be 12 as well. But he's also pretty good for things with timers, okay? So, Borkh 3 Jackdaws. After 3 turns, destroy the strongest non-gold units on the battlefield twice in a row. So, you get 9 strength, and you're destroying the strongest non-gold units on the row twice, which hopefully you'd planned it to be the opponent's 2 strongest units, basically. So that's a really, really powerful card. However, Radovid can destroy that card before its ability is activated, and basically makes it a null card. So in that respect, Radovid is amazingly good. The same thing with Kambi. 3 strength golden unit, which is disloyal, goes on the range row, has a 3-turn timer. After 3 turns, create and play Hemdall unit on your opponent's side of the battlefield. So the weird thing is, the opponent is giving you 3 strength, and then afterwards giving you Hemdall used to be 15. He may not still be 15. We haven't seen him recently with all the reducing overall golden strength. But anyway, the opponent is giving you strength. But the downside is that when Hemdall comes out, all your non-golden units get removed from the board, and maybe even your golden units. We still haven't got clarification on that yet. But if you know that as Northern Realms, it's going to completely devastate you, or if it does remove golden units, all your promoted units just get completely devastated, Radovid can easily remove Kambi before that effect actually happens. So Radovid is starting to jump up in power, just because we're seeing a little decrease in power and other things, and his usability is just so high. You've got like the Reaver Hunters, which muster slowly out of the deck for Northern Realms. While it's not great to use Radovid for the Reaver Hunters, it might be worth it. Even though they're only 4 strength, they will eventually get up to maybe 7, 8, and there'll be like 3 of them there. So it's a reasonable 24 strength that you're getting rid of just by stopping the first Reaver Hunter as well. So I can see him being actually pretty decent now. And what are your guys' thoughts on him then? So here we've got the clan Tordarroch Shieldsmith. Choose a non-golden unit on your side of the battlefield and add 4 strength to its original value. So its original value is like its original strength. So if you added +4 to this, it would go to 7. If it got removed from the board and then brought back by a medic or decoyed or something, it would stay on 7. It won't lose the buff because its original strength has increased. And the developers have stated that they are looking around at experimenting with original base value, base strength. And this is the first card to really utilize that. And they're looking to see how good it is and see how fun it is. And I actually really like it. I went on to the Shieldsmith and talked about how Morkvar gets a really good buff from this because he can go into the graveyard more times, and just makes it a better pin cushion for the whole Skellige self debuffing archetype. But yeah, they're going to mess around in the future with more original strength values and see how that plays out. So one of my last points is that during an event that was on recently, we saw some screenshots, and the screenshots clearly showed a card counter next to your crowns. So I know this is a thing that people were asking for, so they didn't have to count the cards. And although I didn't really mind, I mean, I'm glad they got what they wanted. A card counter tells you how many cards you've got left for both players, including your leader cards. So he's got 5, of course, and it's down there, which is obviously nice. It's not a bad feature, but I didn't think it was necessary, but I'm glad you guys got what you wanted. So we've got another card here, which I believe to be the Lord of Undvik, which has been decreased, and it ties in with Hjalmar here. So here's Hjalmar, 10 strength, golden card for Skellige on the melee row. Create and play Lord of Undvik unit on your opponent's side of the battlefield. So I believe that was that card, and we now know that the Lord of Undvik is 5 strength silver card. So the Lord of Undvik is reasonable in order to destroy. If you destroy it, which is not too hard, one Alzor's Thunder would do really well there. If you weather it down, you can kill him with one of those Brokvar archers, for example, just pinging its strength. There's a lot of ways you can destroy it, which is reasonably good. And if you do manage to destroy it, then Hjalmar will get an extra +10 strength. So he goes to 20, which is huge. Absolutely huge, considering Geralt went down to 12. Some people have raised a concern that, oh, what if the opponent promotes the Lord of Undvik so you can't destroy it? And well, I say to that, that's fine. That is absolutely fine. There's a risk reward there. You know, try and bait out the promotions if you're fighting out Northern Realms, or you know, I don't know. There's obviously a risk reward. They could buff it so it's harder to destroy, and that's how you play around it. It shouldn't be an easy thing to do. So hopefully your opponent has a turn to try and figure out a strategy to stop you getting an extra 10 strength on a golden card of your own. So I really like this card. I think it's really nice. 20 seems a bit high, but what do I know? So that's all the cards which I had to talk about, all the changes and the developer comments that we got. And yeah, so thank you guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And I'll see you very soon. Take care, everyone.